There are 3 updates coming which are going to affect the prices of items within the game. The end of Fresh Start Worlds, Forestry now being split into 2 updates, and also a recent vote. Jagex announced a couple of months ago what items are going to be used in Forestry, and I did a video on it, showing all the items that they mentioned were likely to go up in price, and the vast majority have gone up considerably since that video on the 12th of February. However, they announced the Forestry update is now going to be in 2 parts, with the first part out in a couple of months. So in the last week, a lot of people have cashed in on those investments, dropping the price of a lot of them. Understandably, some people are happy to make 25 to 50% profit now risk-free, rather than to wait later, especially after that announcement. Redwood logs were 346 GP when that video was released and are now 427 GP. Dwarf weeds were 989 GP and are now 1448 GP. Those seem to be holding out a bit better than the others are for now, with items like leather having gone up but coming back down to the original price this week, and magic logs over a slightly longer period. I've had a look and it's very difficult to know which items will be in which update, and this is important because those not in the first part are likely to have a mini crash after the update and recover later, then eventually going up in price at a later date before the second update. So the basis of creating items in Forestry starts with using logs to gain untradeable items. That is always the first thing created, and that means logs must surely be the first part of the update. And apart from Redwood, most logs haven't gone up much in price. Mainly I think because there's so many in the game that people buying for this update is only a small percentage of the economy. Out of all the logs, I personally think redwoods and maples seem to be the smartest investment, and they are cheap for their level compared to the others. And that's simply because we make more than we use, but Jaggers have said they want Forestry to be an item sink for logs, so as long as they get it right, it should have the biggest impact on these 2 types of logs. The next big update to affect the economy is the end of Fresh Start Worlds, and this impact is far harder to predict. But having played it for 3 months, I've seen some things that a lot won't have. There's around 1% of the amount of players playing Fresh Start Worlds now than those that play the main game, which isn't a lot, but they have 6 months worth of gameplay coming with them, and that will cause shockwaves on a ton of items in the game. The general consensus is that since a lot of players in this game mode are alts, they will sell all their items and transfer the gold to the mains at the end of Fresh Start Worlds, causing a mass crash, and whilst this may happen, it's very simplistic view, and certainly won't happen for all items. Firstly, there are almost no bots in Fresh Start Worlds, because there aren't enough players for the demand a bot would create by farming the same item over and over again. In fact, I have a video out on this next week showing just how easy you can make money in Fresh Start Worlds because of this. Grapes and Oldskool Runescape are 24 GP each, but without bots buying them out in every single world, they are 875 GP each in Fresh Start Worlds. And this isn't limited to smaller items either. For the entirety of Fresh Start Worlds, Archer's Rings have held a very high price consistently of around 10 to 12 million GP, and even just a few weeks before the merge, players are still paying almost 3 million more instead of just waiting a few weeks to buy them. The Toxic Blowpipe is double the price in Fresh Start Worlds, and the Arcane Prayer Scroll, which is only 2.6 million on 07, is an incredible 32.5 million GP on Fresh Start Worlds. No one at all is bringing those items over to sell them for a fraction of the price here. In fact, it's very likely that those players who don't have mains will be waiting until the merge to buy those items, creating a demand in 07. But with only 1% of the player base 07 has, the impact isn't going to be huge. The biggest issue with this merge may be people's perceptions and the presumption that a lot of items are going to crash. If enough people worry about a crash, they will inevitably sell their items, which will in fact cause a crash, not the actual merge. The reality is that players coming over also carry a lot of GP, which is what balances the economy. So as long as players don't panic sell, the impact should be minor, but I will definitely be keeping an eye on the prices for the next few weeks. Finally, we have a vote which changes how we obtain some very specific items, which are going to affect prices from Tithe Farm all the way to the Revenant Caves. The Tithe Farm votes are to make it a solo instance so you don't fight for space, to be able to bring more seeds so you can stay longer, and to give double the blessings as a reward, which is what allows you to farm Zamorak grapes instead of normal ones in the minigame. All in all, meaning it's far easier to obtain Zamorak grapes, meaning a price crash is inevitable if a few of those pass. There's also a vote to allow herb boxes from Tithe Farm, but with a Forestry update about to remove a ton of herbs from the game, that shouldn't have much of an impact. Lastly, there is a Slayer task increase for Revenants. With the chance of getting weapons already increased by 5 times the amount on a Slayer task, players are also now going to have twice as many to kill if that passes the poll. With the Wilderness Boss rework, it's created a huge demand for these weapons, so I understand why they would want to do this, but this may actually have a negative impact on the price of those weapons. We will see what happens with all of those updates, and I'll be back next month to go through any new updates that are going to affect prices in the economy.